Let's go to Amman in Jordan to speak to Ahmed Bayram, who is the Middle East spokesperson for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Welcome to the programme, Ahmed. Is the NRC present in Gaza?
Yes, that's correct. We do have 50 of our colleagues in Gaza. Most of them, the majority of them, have been pushed all the way down to the south in Rafah, where we're currently operating, providing some relief. That is never enough, of course, given the circumstances. We do provide shelter support, makeshift tents, because sadly that's the situation of displacement now. And we do provide some hot meals and drinking water. But again, it's hardly scratching the surface, given the level of misery that the Palestinians are going through at the moment.
Of course, any help that they can get, they will obviously receive it gratefully. And I'm only saying that because I wanted to ask you, Ahmed, if the NRC is present in any other part of Gaza, or is it just too difficult to do anything outside of the south?
Difficult, impossible almost. We have been, remember, the original orders were to remove people, forcibly transfer people from the north to the south. Israel again asked people to move further south, and with these orders, aid organizations had to, of course, relocate. And now our operations, and indeed the operations of almost everybody else, every other organization on the ground, have been focusing on Rafah. And Rafah is now one of the most overcrowded places in the region, probably even worldwide. You're talking about 12,000 people crammed into 1 square kilometer. They all need food, they all need water, they all need shelter. I speak to you from Amman, and weather here has been quite cold. It's been quite cold these past 2 days, and people, are now staying in tents built on swathes of sandy lands that, lands of dirt that now turning into muddy pools with the first rain year. So yeah, I mean the level of suffering is unprecedented really in Gaza.
Your boss, Jan Egeland, a few weeks ago was extremely strong, and I can't remember the exact phrasing he used, Ahmed, but he was talking about the failure of humanity, about how it was just a moral vacuum, that the world could watch this but do nothing to be able to stop it. Who do aid organizations speak to when they're operating in war zones like Gaza? Is there someone the NRC can ask for advice on either side about where it might be safe to go and do the humanitarian work that you do, or do you just have to take a chance?
No, we do coordinate indeed. I mean, without getting too technical, the Israeli side is aware of where these aid teams are located in general. In principle, that happens through either direct sharing of localities between the UN and the authorities. And of course, we do operate across these zones. I think the problem here is that there's not much safety left for aid organizations to move around. And we have seen UN shelters being hit, being targeted. We have seen populations being hit in the very areas that they have been moved to or forcibly transferred to. But again, I mean, you are working in some of the most impossible circumstances. And I have to say, having covered, so many crises in this region, this is probably, the level of uncertainty for aid teams is unseen before. We were there in Syria, we were there in Iraq, we were there in Yemen with conflict, some of the most violent settings. However, for the first time now, we see aid workers being targeted at a scale that that actually gives us no other choice but to suspend operations in the majority of Gaza. And that's why we're saying again that we need a ceasefire to protect these teams, to protect the people, and to stop the bloodshed in Gaza. 80 days, that is more than enough.
If there is a ceasefire, Ahmed, do you know, not just for the Norwegian Refugee Council, but also for other aid organizations, how much assistance may be right there, ready to go on the Egyptian side of the border?
I try to not get into volumes and sizes and numbers of aid trucks, and we have been actually saying that we need to look at what's happening on the ground. You have seen images of people waving empty pots at a big single cauldron that is, that is never enough for a neighborhood, an entire neighborhood of starvation. And 80 days, Israel has starved Gaza of food, of electricity, of fuel, of connectivity. So what we need to see is sustainable, unhindered, unconditional, unfettered access of aid once hopefully the world has come together to agree that, we have seen enough bloodshed and that has to stop. So the day after, and that can't come soon enough, we need to see, aid will flow in for sure. And of course, we will work with donors on that and with people who want to help. However, we shouldn't stop before the needs have been satisfied, and they will be so immense. I mean, there'll be invisible wounds, and the mental health crisis that we expect, the health crisis that we expect, and of course the diseases that we haven't learned about yet. All of this has to be addressed, and it can't start without an immediate and sustainable and lasting ceasefire.
Yeah, absolutely. Ahmed, we can only ever skirt the surface of the challenges during interviews like this, but it's so important that we hear from people like you. Just one example would be, and this number is out of date, it's from a couple of weeks ago, that there were 7,000 children in Gaza who needed reconstructive surgery, and they're trapped in the enclave. Ahmed Bayram, good luck with the work. Thank you very much for your time.